where it goes down, where you hear about the sports all around town. In the country, full of controversy to the highlights. You just not safe in the limelight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another great episode of The Stoop, where we talk hoops, and more hoops. Want to give a big shout out to our folks over there at Nuts and Bolts. Thank you so much for the opportunity as we do what we do here at The Stoop. I want to introduce my partner in crime, my co-host, my man, Kev P. Kev P, say what's up to the people.
You already know. As always, it's a pleasure to be here.
I love when he do that, y'all. Listen, Kev P, I know we talk hoops, and more hoops, but today we got something special. We're going to delve a little bit into that business community, look into those brands. And when we talk about brands, this guy really knows what he's talking about. He started off his career with Nike, getting his feet wet. Then he jumped into Vibe magazine. Then he was a great executive over there with that BBC. And for those hip-hop impaired, that means Billionaires Boys Club. Then he jumped back into Nike doing that world basketball thing. And now you can find him as a director with Adidas, bringing you not only brands, fashion, but a little bit of hip-hop. We're talking about a Maryland Eastern Shore grad. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together live at the Stoop for Mr. Astor Chambers. What's up, Astor, man? Pleasure for you to be here, bro.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. That was a great intro.
Hey, man, I pride myself in my intros. My partner would tell you that. I love that part of the show.
I see.
Absolutely. So, Astor, I'm going to jump right into it today, bro. Listen, thank you once again for being on the Stoop. Growing up, man, in your heart of hearts, when people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Has it been in line of what you've been doing so far? When somebody asked you that, what did you see yourself initially doing in life?
You know what? Growing up in New York City, initially, I thought I was going to be a ball player. Ironically enough. So, you know, I played ball the early years of my life. I mean, that's been a huge part of my life still to this date. But I thought I was going to be a ball player on some level, whether it was, you know, being fortunate enough to make it to the NBA or being able to work or play overseas somewhere. So I really thought that was going to be my future until, I don't want to say the reality hit, but just life hit, and didn't end up playing college ball at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, which I thought and was supposed to actually play there. It didn't happen. And then I just got further deep within who I wanted to become and what I was going to be, and realized that, you know, maybe basketball is not the avenue for me moving forward.
Okay.
In terms of career, when people ask me what I want to do then.
Okay. That's cool. That's fair. That's cool. Everybody got hoop dreams. I had them. Kev P probably had them too, man. Growing up, everybody wanted to mess with the rock. But let's move forward to, you know, a little bit later. So when you thought about things in life for you as well, what attracted you after you realized maybe this might not be the path? Were you more so in line with sneakers and brands, shoes, or did you just like business all the way around?
Yeah, I think, you know, I had a unique experience. I went to LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts. For those of you who are a little bit younger, there was a TV show called Fame. Fame was a show
live forever, baby. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Come on, man.
Debbie Allen out here. Astor, what's up, baby?
I love it. Leroy dancing on tables. Yeah. I was not a dance major. However, I was an art major. And so I went to this school in New York for 4 years. Great, amazing experience. As one of my other passions was art. Okay. And in my senior year, I was a senior class vice president. And there was a day where this lady who came to our school, she had a project to find the correlation between arts and sports. So my senior class advisor just happened to see me in the hallway, and he was like, hey, would you mind taking her around the school? I said, sure. So I took her around the school for the day, had this great day of showing her all the different departments, all the different type of people, and giving her helpful info on her project. At the end of the day, she was like, you know what, I really mind coming by the office one day and just talking about product. She ended up working for Nike.
Wow.
So, and this was back in, this is 92, 91.
Okay.
And so I'm just giving you the year because then it gives you context of where we were as a culture in terms of the footwear industry as we all know it today, right?
Absolutely.
And so this was in the early stages where I would then go to the office when there were different designers or marketing executives that would come in town from Portland, because it was also a time where the brand was growing exponentially and they had no clue as to how and why the business was growing at this rate. And what I kind of helped to give them context on was, no, we are buying a ton of this product, i.e. Nike footwear and apparel, but more so footwear as a means of our expression, not necessarily as a means to we're actually playing ball in these or running in these shoes. They were like, really? So you're just buying them because you think they're cool? We're like, yeah, it's part of building who we are and building up who our persona is, and it rounds out our look. So they couldn't, like, this was so like mind blowing to them. So I would do this for a number of different individuals who would come in town, different designers, different marketers, actually take them to different parks, so they could witness kids playing ball and have and ask questions and get into their head as well. And it started to expose me to the business of the thing that I lived.
Gotcha.
Right, as a consumer. So when I graduated from college, I then said, you know, it wasn't me. I'm gonna give all credit to my mother, because she made it very clear. She was like, look, all these free shoes they've been giving you are cool, but you've been giving them a whole lot of information that's made them millions of dollars. They need to give you a job. I said, Mom, you're hating on what's happening right now. Let me chill in my lane and still get my free kicks and be that guy at school. And this thing is all right. She was like, no. They need to get you a job. So I said, called my lady friend who was there, who still to this day is one of my dearest friends, who's been like a mentor for me and ushered me into a number of different rooms, conversations, and people. And she said, yeah, you should interview for an ECAN, which is Nike spelled backwards, and it's a tech rep in each respective city that educates all the retailers on all the different technical aspects of the product.
So with that being said, I guess it would be fair to say that you pretty much started the process of like these brands doing focus groups to understand the urban demographic or whatever demographic it is that they're aiming to shoot their product at.
Absolutely. It was definitely, because you got to think, myself and those who came up in that time are part of what I call first generation footwear consumers, right? Like literally procure the product as a means of expression. Yes, we played ball in our Huaraches at times, but for the most part, we were rocking our Huaraches because it was a statement. It was a compelling emotion that we were trying to evoke that was reflective of us. It was defining who we were as personalities, right? And as people. So yeah, there were a number of times where, again, these people come in and they had no clue as to why and how. So yes, definitely at the forefront of being part of what some might say were the first focus groups before people even called them that. It was just sessions with consumers to kind of pick their brains. Because remember, this company was based in Beaverton, Oregon.
There's nobody out there that
they had
not
no
on a New York status.
No clue. So they had to come into communities and areas like this to get fully entrenched in the culture and the people who are procuring and advocating and embracing the brand at this rate.
Okay, well, I want to touch on a couple things here because you got the wheels rolling here now. Yeah. So brands as a whole, they've always been what a lot of people would consider a status symbol within our culture.
Yep.
Regardless of whether it's clothing, sneakers, cars, watches, phones, you name it.
Like that, yep.
Yeah, some of these brands are able to remain relevant for decades, lifetimes even, and then some of them fade out as fast as they arrive.
Yep.
What separates the two?
Great question. I think it's a number of things. I think first off, there has to be a level of authenticity within a brand. And authenticity is not just within your mission statement and what it is you communicate out to the marketplace, but it's also the culture in which you build internally. Because I think you can look at, especially now, in the last 10, 15 years, companies are now being looked at differently. And what I mean by that is, you mentioned the way in which we embraced brands over the years. It was to be a part of our assortment of defining who we were as consumers and individuals, right? So you leveraged and leaned on, well, I've got the Louis thing here because that's going to give me that type of feel and that look. Gucci, I'm going to get a couple Gucci pieces because that's going to put me in a certain type of, and I don't want to say class, but an image realm. Now, companies are it's almost like this flip that's happened, where companies are now being held a little bit more responsible to be better companies. And what I mean by better companies in terms of what they're contributing to the community. And not community in terms of urban cities, community as a whole. What are you doing to make for a better world? And what are you reflecting internally that should be reflective of the consumers that you're serving? And we can go into that in a whole heap of ways. But I think that's the place we're in now. So you have a number of companies who they go by the waistline because they don't have some of those authentic roots and foundation or building blocks within them. And sometimes a lot of brands are built for moment things. Certain brands are just here for a moment to capitalize on a trend, capitalize on something that's hot.
Well, I'm happy you mentioned trend because as a culture, we always seem to set the trend. And things are intended for a specific purpose. We find a way to adopt it with fashion and repurpose
Absolutely.
it. Like you said, with sneakers being running sneakers, and we turned that into, no, I just wear it because. Same thing with ball and sneakers. I remember ACGs, we just wore them just because.
You never hiked.
Exactly. That's my point.
But that ACG meant everything.
Absolutely.
Go.
But function doesn't necessarily dictate our consumerism.
Correct.
What's the first brand that you recall being, I guess, repurposed?
So I think there were a couple. A repurposed brand is a great question. So for me growing up, I was part of when the Gap first launched. And when the Gap first launched, you can imagine, again, a kid growing up in New York City, in Manhattan, the Gap had a very, I don't want to say snooty, but it was kind of like a preppy type of positioning. Myself, many others, reappropriated it by, we got a preppy element in us, but we're going to flip the way in which we do it. And Gap then became this monster that wasn't just from the preppy-esque type of consumers, but from a broader base consumer range that embraced it in different ways. So when I saw how something like a Gap, and then right after that, Benetton was the other one. When you think about Benetton, you don't think about people of color really being who that brand is speaking to. But who's the consumer that made it what it was then, and how impactful of a positioning it had within the market? It was definitely people of color. And it goes back to the component that you just mentioned of how influential we are in terms of authenticating and validating brands. And I'm really hoping, especially today, we understand that currency that we have.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I always say, and I'm not going to say it like I coined the phrase at all, but we always have this battle with Black Lives Matter, but I know that they know Black dollars matter. That's without question.
Yeah, and it's, you know what, and it's deeper than the dollars. It's deeper than the dollars. It's Black advocacy. Is like, you can't even put a dollar sign on that.
Yeah.
When we advocate for something, whether we bought it with our dollars or not, once we advocate, there's a whole nother level of currency that goes with that brand. So we need to, and it's, again, I keep the severity of that today, being intentional with your dollar spend and your advocacy of brands right now is critical.
We make you move. Yeah, TJ.
Hey, Astor, I thought you was gonna talk about like a lease and lottos and all that next too, bro. You going to talk about bringing that preppy era back, man.
Well, but the reason why, to be honest with you, when you think about it, at that time, apparel was at the forefront of defining personality.
Absolutely.
Footwear was just a baby. Footwear was a baby in the game then. Footwear was becoming the juggernaut that it is today. So back then it was about, you start with your shirt and your pant, and then you figure out the shoes.
Another way now.
No doubt.
We've now gone through the flip of the footwear. So yes, while lottos and all that played a role, they weren't shifting everything. They were complementing, but they weren't shifting. Now apparel was shifting, because then you had Fat Farm come out, which was one of the first ever, Black owned, Russell's brand, who I distinctly remember, he had a storefront that was in the Village. Like, he had an actual Fat Farm store in the Village, which was mind blowing. So I can go buy this from somebody who looks like me amongst Armani Exchange, Gap, all these other prominent brands. That was like a mind blow moment. So I did the apparel because then apparel was definitely at the forefront of that whole cultural movement.
No doubt. Let me ask you this, Astor. Everybody talking about today, my brand, my brand, my brand. For a cat that's on the street and he's developing something into a brand, because people don't even know, if you do your research about Pharrell and the whole BBC thing, man, that was something he started a minute ago, and that was something he had in the vision with him and his team, calling them the Billionaires Boys Club. So it just started with a seed. It started with a small thought. How can a cat, give me some recipes and maybe 2 techniques. I know you talk about authenticity, but like I said, for the regular cat, we talk about my brand, but really don't have a clue about how they develop their brand. How would you support somebody like that and develop that joint?
Well, I think first off, you want clarity on what's your purpose.
Okay.
Right. because I think now creating a brand is so much more evolved today than it was back in the day. Back in the day was, are you creating something cool, a thing, an item or a service that people can covet, gravitate to? I
Right.
think now there's a bigger play now, and it has to be rooted on what's your purpose? What are you really trying to do, right? And the thing, the item or the service that you're creating is a component of the greater purpose. What's the bigger thing that you're really trying to affect? And it could be anything. It could be environmental. It can be, you know, in my neighborhood, I want to help create more parks or whatever that thing is. Because I think once you get that end vision, that end in mind, then you start playing everything back to then how do you reach that end point of the purpose, whatever it is. And so with the purpose, I think you also got to understand that there's going to be certain things when you build your plan that are non-negotiables.
Got it.
Meaning, no matter what, we're not changing what we stand for here. We're not following a trend. We're not going to deviate over here because we see there's a bigger money opportunity, a bigger play, if it's against what we are setting out to do. So you got to understand that there's certain non-negotiables and you don't deviate from that, because that all leads to how authentic you are and the authenticity and the richness of what you want to create.
So you guys stick to the script, huh?
Yeah.
Stick to your script. I mean, you evolve, and in evolving, you're going to tweak it. It's going to be bent a little bit. It's going to be challenged. You're going to have some adversity. You're going to have some failure. Please understand, that's the other thing. Failure is part of the journey.
Got it.
Adversity is part of the journey. Everybody sees we're in an era now with internet, we have access to everything. So we think everything is an overnight thing, right? I call this the microwave era. Again, I came up in the bake in the oven, let that thing marinate and really sit, take some time to bring out a quality piece of meat, or quality product.
We got
right?
We here with you. Yeah.
You see the analogy I'm going with? We're very much in this microwave era where people just think that somebody became a superstar or famous overnight. We got to start painting the picture for people on the journey that it takes to get there. And it's not about that end goal. It's about all the things that were done in between to get to that. That's the real story.
Absolutely.
And the real work.
Absolutely.
So I think though I gave you about 5 things that I would lend somebody right now.
That.
But I think it's critical. I just remain true to who you are, authentic. Make sure you have your non-negotiables, and have an end in mind, but know that that's not the end of the journey.
Got it.
Definitely.
One of the things you touched on there was a purpose.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say before, I don't know if you coined the phrase, but I like it, is significance over success. And as it pertains to your work in terms of branding, explain to our viewers exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah, so, and thank you for shouting that out, because it's something for me right now that is at the forefront of everything that I do, is really locking in with my purpose. And ever since the beginning of COVID, it's gotten even sharper and even more refined. And I know what that is in terms of, I am truly here to help unlock greatness in all people by minimizing the expectation gap. And we can talk about that later. But a big part of that is I looked at what success means. And success is when you bring value to yourself. I've been successful. I've been very successful to date. I've done a ton of amazing things. I've had great jobs and great relationships and great opportunities and all that. I brought a lot of value to Astor. Check. I'm now at the place where it's no longer about success. It's about significance, which is when you can bring value to others. How am I creating platforms for others to springboard and become their great selves and then contribute to culture, community in a great way? How am I empowering those who might not have been empowered before so that they can feel a way about what they have to offer, whether it's in a circumstance, an initiative, a job, a company, what have you. I'm all about significance now, which is bringing value to others, not myself. I've been blessed in that. And I know where my blessings have come from, and he's guiding and shaping this whole ship and this roadmap anyway. And I know it's my role to pass on and provide whatever opportunities I can to others to be their best selves, which then makes all of us our best selves, which a lot of people don't grasp that.
No doubt.
because I think a lot of people are operating from a place of fear, thinking that if somebody else is great, that's going to take away my light, my job, my opportunity. I look at it as the complete opposite. Like we need more light, and we need to provide more opportunities for light to shine through, because we're in a super dark world and time, super dark. And if we're not providing outlets and platforms for other great things to happen, then really you're not doing your job. That's the real job. And maybe it's because I'm a father of 3 girls right now, so that is the role in general. I mean, real talk, I got to go out into the world and help contribute to something that they're going to be able to come out and excel in, and be able to contribute in the biggest way possible, because I know they have gifts as well. I know they have an opportunity to be positive contributors. If I'm not doing my part in helping the world outside of our home to be a reflection of an environment that they can walk into and contribute like that and succeed and excel, then I'm not doing my job as a father. So it all kind of is intertwined into one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you good?
Oh, I'm never good, man. Listen. So we were talking about something you was actually going there. So I want to keep that steam and that ball rolling. So COVID-19, Astor, had a lot of people trying to reinvent, pivot, transition, find a new spark, find a new role. As a brand connoisseur, as a brand specialist, as a creative director, in so many different ways that you do certain things, how do you reshape certain things when a lot of things are closing? And how do you pursue in getting a new avenue in times like these? What have you found that's working, and what have been some challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, I think patience, firstly. You have to have patience, because I think with what's taking place right now, everybody's in a state of unknown. Nobody knows what this is going to look like moving forward. What's our new norm? But with that patience, what I would tell people is be super optimistic, because if you look at history, coming out of every depression, recession, pandemic, if whatever you want to call them, this is when the peak of innovation, new technologies, new opportunities come to society and culture. So
like a renaissance.
It's a renaissance period all the way. So whatever it is you're looking to pivot or change, this is the time to do it. While it seems super dark and gleam outside, this is really the time to look at, okay, what's something that I could think totally out the box about? Reimagine how it can or should be done, because the world is going to be looking into new ways of doing really the majority of things.
Absolutely.
So be super optimistic, and be super patient. Do not have any thought of fear or being deterred by all that you see, because all that you see can keep anybody down right now, right? From your naked eye, you look at our circumstances and be like, yo, how could you pivot now? You better hold on to something and just ride that wave. Like, it's too crazy out here. You cannot feed that. You've got to pour water on the seeds of, oh no, this is actually the perfect time, and be super optimistic and go after it for sure.
I want to say something to that, and actually ask something through what you just said. That's a great point. You've worked with a lot of different artists and creative minds, and you stepped into a brand with Adidas now. You're doing some great and high-level things. What was it like when you got that phone call about your new role? Because you're working with some of the great and amazing artists of today's time that everybody loves their music. It's fascination. But did you believe it when you got the call? I know you put some work in, but then what was it like? Like, how did you sit back and marinate on that? And then what was your next steps?
Well, yeah, I thought it was a great next chapter to my story of, again, significance. Because to be honest with you, when I left Nike, I left because our oldest daughter sings and acts, and she had an opportunity to be on Broadway in School of Rock, the Andrew Lloyd Webber production, which was Tony nominated. Yeah, she was part of the original cast and the whole 9 yards. So when you talk about, again, this is when I started to see about significance, right? Because I easily could have stayed at my job, because that's what we do. And said, you know what, no, baby, we're not going to be able to do this opportunity in New York, because daddy's got to stay here and work. And this is how the world kind of works. Instead, I said, no, this is not a test, but this is an opportunity of truly showing significance. Because I knew that the opportunity to have her fulfill this dream, which she earned and she was gifted enough to do, was going to be able to touch and inspire way more people than I probably could ever touch and inspire at that time within my job.
Yeah.
So when she was done with that and we came back to Portland, and then she was doing other TV shows, she became a reoccurring role on Chicago PD, and still in her bag in terms of her gift that she was given, that we as parents fueled, thank God, and supported. It was now it was like, I'm back home, I can get back into a gig. And you got to be careful what you pray for, and you got to be careful the words that you put out into the universe. Because I said, if I was to get back into the industry, I want to be in a position where I can help leverage those who are super influential and can shift culture for all the right reasons. Shift culture. So I never said I want to go make cool shoes and a cool t-shirt. Listen, shift culture. I want to be able to work with people who have that type of MO and that type of opportunity and be a part of that movement. I put that out in the universe, and God manifested that, where conversations started to happen. I hit my guy Wex. He was like, yo, we're looking for somebody to run Kanye's business. You'd be perfect. I said, all right. I mean, even though at that point, running Kanye's business, right, deep breath, and you got, all right, yeah, but wow, okay, yes. And then I didn't hear from them for months. And then they came back and said, look, we had a reorg, and now we're looking at you overseeing all of our music business outside of Kanye. And we're about to bring on somebody by the name of Beyonce. And I said, that's a no-brainer. So for me, getting that call, going back to answering your question, getting that call wasn't a mind-blowing experience. It was one of just confirmation of, once again, be careful what you pray for, because he puts all the resources and energy behind that if it's the right thing for building his kingdom. And that's exactly what happened.
Cool. Go ahead, Kev. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I want to go back for a moment, because you mentioned in some of your early years, 91, 92, you were talking about high school. And at that particular time, when we talk about branding, especially as individuals, Michael Jordan as a player, as a sneaker, as a brand, and since then has been able to do things that pretty much no other athlete has ever been able to do, which is stay relevant even after retirement. I mean, we've had guys with sneakers before and since, but nobody's been able to do what he has been able to do. And that's a testament to his greatness. But besides that, is this a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, or do you think there's another athlete or celebrity anywhere that could duplicate or surpass what he's been able to do?
Great question. I don't know if there's a surpassing. Well, let's put context on the surpassing. I think that the magnitude of what MJ did was iconic because it hadn't been done before. And it was at the forefront of creating this new lane and this new piece of culture that we now live in, right? So we can have these conversations now, and kids who, procure product and, they're buyers of product and they sell shoes and the whole nine yards, they're doing that because they didn't come up in a time where this was not a thing.
Right.
This was not literally a thing. Because I know, T, when you probably asked me, what did you want to be when you grow up? And people probably thinking he's going to say he wants to work in a footwear brand and working with all these different entertainers and athletes, when that wasn't a thing to even think of, right? So context, what MJ has done is a consummate example of excellence that has evolved over the years in terms of amazing storytelling.
Yes.
And once again, consumers advocating and buying into what he is all about, to the point where you have people now purchasing MJ Jordan brand product, never saw him play, barely know anything about how incredible he was as an athlete, but just know based off of those around them who covet it, they buy into it. So you talk about a currency. That's not something you can pay for. So do I think something like that is ever going to happen again? Probably not. However, to be completely honest, we're in an age where it looks different for this consumer and this generation, because what Kanye has done is absurd. I mean, that is
Out of here.
that, I think that is the next, that's been the closest thing to what MJ represented years ago. Kanye is now that. No, it looks different, it feels different, it's a whole different story. But when you look at the polarizing effect that he's had with his brand and how it's been coveted in the way that it is, it's very, very similar to that of what MJ did. It just looks totally different. So I think that is the closest thing, and is a huge close thing, because if you even look at from a revenue standpoint, how quickly he got to the $1 billion mark within a brand is way faster than that of how MJ got to $1 billion as a brand.
Yes.
But from a significant standpoint, Kanye has a consumer base that are going to evolve with his brand for the next 10, 15 years, and then have their conversation like we're having right now about how we came up with MJ.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be slightly different. So I think Kanye, yes. Anybody else after that, I don't know if it's going to be possible, because those are two very huge moments in the history of shaping culture.
I don't know, Astor. Somebody on the rise, bro. Can I throw one out there to you?
I would love you to.
Trav is
Travis
on
Scott.
his way.
Okay. So let's see how that evolves. I think what he's doing has been great. He's an interesting one who has a huge following.
Yes.
Let's see where this evolves to. Because what are our thoughts on the McDonald's collaboration?
The McDonald's collaboration was something I think that's going to.
Yeah. Thank you, Kev. I mean,
it's kid friendly. It's kid friendly. But if we're talking about on the sneaker market, in the sneaker game, Trav and his Jordan deal, his Mike deal is crazy. And
yeah,
I thought they were. I thought they might have had something with the Drake and OVO line. I thought they might have, but it's not had the level of steam, Astor. Now maybe you won't agree, or maybe you will agree, that Travis now has in the last 2.5 years with his Jordan deal. Thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, the momentum that Trav has on his product drops have been ridiculous. I mean, like, he has disrupted the market in a great way. Great way. Now, that those are product drops. We have not built a brand to date. So I think you talk about brands, the Jordan brand, Yeezy. Those are brands, and they have to start somewhere.
Yes.
And Trav is starting somewhere. And I think I love having more people in that party is exciting to me.
No doubt.
So if there's an opportunity for him to have something that turns into a brand to the likes of what Brand Jordan and Yeezy have created, please, that's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Okay. Kevin, still on me?
Yes, sir.
My God. So let's stay right here for a second, Astor. So we talk about everything when it comes down to the dollar amount, wins and losses. Adidas way back in the day was the first sneaker brand to sign rappers when they signed Run DMC. And that's been, a culture shock then as much as it is right now. You guys have really lessened the gap. Adidas really just jumped over a lot of different things, man, and with Pharrell and with B and with Ye. Because everybody thought Nike was just it. But no, like in the last couple of years, Yeezys and Adidas has really closed that gap. When you guys sit at your boardroom or now on your Zoom calls, when you think about things like when you may want to sign an artist or sign somebody to the brand, is it they hot right now, they've been hot and they've sustained some longevity, or do y'all roll the dice and say, they got a spark, let's see what's up? No, they got a spark, right. So let's see what's up.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
No, I appreciate it. So just clarity, I'm no longer at Adidas, so I want to make that very clear.
Okay.
Yeah. No, and that's new, but I can still speak to all this, obviously, having been in the center of a number of conversations, both there and at Nike, right?
Right. Okay.
Because I've seen this this shift and evolution from sporting brands only signing athletes to now sporting brands signing more than just athletes, and I think what that's all predicated on is the fact that youth culture has evolved so much, and companies have realized that there are other factors that influence the youth outside of sport, like sport did years ago, right? So when MJ was signed and things to that degree, Nike would never even think of signing an entertainer, because that wasn't true to what the brand was all about, which is an innovation sport brand.
Yes.
Now, Adidas was open to that, hence signing a Run DMC.
Right.
They also shifted more heavily on that side from a standpoint of still committing to sport,
Yes.
but betting way heavier on that of culture from an entertainment standpoint, i.e. music.
Understood.
And if you look at that, it's very much reflective of, again, what are those things that are influencing youth culture? If you want to be a company that is relevant and evolving and growing with the market, you have to align, work with, figure out how to incorporate the elements that shift culture.
Got you.
Now, it can be very dangerous if you do that and it's not authentic. Again, this word that I started the whole thing off with, if it's not authentic to who and what your brand is all about. However, if you're a brand that says you are about providing platforms for influencers who are creators, and that can be all encompassing of athletes, musicians, actors, what have you, that's what provided the opportunity for Adidas to go so heavy in that space.
Okay.
So as you talk about what type of people you bring on, I think brands always look at aligning with, in some cases it is who's on top.
Okay.
In some cases, and so every scenario is different,
Okay.
obviously. But I think for the most part, it's always based off of who and what can you align with that can help you get into a space that you couldn't get into on your own.
Got you.
Right? So every brand, certain brands, while like an Apple, everybody thinks an Apple means everything to everybody. Like everybody's their consumer, but really it's not. I mean, they're very, they're very thoughtful and intent, they're very thoughtful on who they speak to. And they don't try to speak to everybody. When it may look like they do, because it's such a huge brand. I think you have to remember who and what you stand for, and understand you're never going to be able to speak to everybody. However, you do want to be or need to be in certain spaces to continue to evolve and grow. And hence, you might not be able to do that on your own, but if you align with somebody, a partner, it can help you get into spaces that you can evolve in authentically.
Okay. Let me toss, or like, give me 1 second on an extra credit question for today. If Astor was starting a brand, is it the cat that's hot right now, who's has some longevity? Are you roll the dice yourself, or are you trying to get into a space that you ain't already in? Which one are you doing to start your brand? This is Astor's brand. What you using?
This is Astor's brand. I'm trying to find the next thought leader and cultural architect that I can help provide a platform to help shift and change and move something in our world, whatever that is. But I want to be about putting that backpack on that next amazing designer, that next amazing talent, that next amazing, coder, tech guy, whatever it is. I want to find that next and grow with them. That's the other thing. You got a lot of companies that just want to jump on the bandwagon when somebody's already reached the top. I think the real work comes when you partner with someone and you work together to reach the top. That's when the amazing stuff really happens.
Gotcha.
So with that being said, would you be more apt to work with somebody who's doing something that's been never done before, it's an untapped resource, or are you more apt to work with someone who may be in something that's been around, but he's just found a whole new way to go about doing it?
It would depend on the scenario. I'm open to both. I think both of those feel good to me, because in both of those scenarios that you outlined, it's re-looking at something that has never been done before, but we have an opportunity to introduce. So now it's just about pulling together the resources to help validate that, or looking at something that's already been confirmed or already been embraced, but we're looking to flip it on its head to add a whole new element, whatever that is, to it. I'm open to both those. What I'm not open to is getting into something just to get into something because everybody else is making some paper and there's nothing really different that we're bringing to the party.
No substance.
Yeah, not for me.
Got it. I would like to, I'm a family guy. I'm a big family guy. My family means everything to me. And I can tell by some of the things that you've mentioned about your daughter and things of that sort that family is important to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of Trey Renee doing her thing media-wise.
Yeah.
Shout out to her. But I know this balance now with being dad and everything that's going on. I know that you've recently been brushing up on your culinary arts.
Oh,
Question is, what sparked this passion, and is there a budding new career, and how do you intend on cultivating it in this current climate?
that's a great question. So if you want to hear this, this is a funny story. So I met my wife in San Francisco when I lived out there working for Vibe. And, you know, when I lived in San Fran, it was the first time that I've ever lived away from home. No, I lived in Jersey before I left New York with who's not like my brother, my man Jaha. He and I lived together in Jersey, but I never cooked, never cooked. I'd literally, before I would leave the city to go home in Jersey, I'll go by my mom's crib, get something to eat, and then go home or eat out. Full transparency. So moving to San Francisco, I had still not learned how to cook. I literally had to eat out every night, and then I had to figure it out. So I had to pull some just basic dishes together that I can make quickly, some rice-a-roni,
I
whatever.
was just going to say, you was out there eating rice-a-roni in San Francisco.
Oh, absolutely. I was basics, walking across the street to go eat, whatever. So I meet what is now my wife, but Tracy then, and as we start dating, she says to me and makes it very clear, look, I'm just letting you know right now, I do not cook, and I have no intentions of ever cooking. So I was like, wow, okay. So, you know, I was such in la la land that I didn't say this.
Casey bad, he ain't hearing all that.
I was just like, whatever. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. Let me tell you how smart this young lady is. We start to get very serious in our dating. So after that, every birthday, every holiday, what did I get as a gift? I got a certificate to the Culinary Institute for cooking classes. So the first time I got that, I was like, yo, this is disrespectful, B. What you sending me? You sending me to school to go learn how to cook, and you don't want to try to figure something out? You need to be cooking. And I was hot. I was so hot. And when I went into the first one, it was a game changer. And I think what it did was it tapped into my old artistic side of my brain from going to LaGuardia, because it's all about creativity, and it's all about looking at things, how they're presented, the process of bringing it all together. All these are principles that I had when I used to be an artist. And so what I found was this was now tapping into what was dormant for a little while, but my artistic side of my life. And so I started to love it. So I would go to these classes probably like once a month, and I would do all the classes of the things that I loved to cook, or the things I love to eat out, like Chinese food, General Tso's, chicken, beef, and broccoli, all that. I'm gonna do that in the crib. I don't need to go out anymore. And so it just snowballed to where then I was like, all right, well, we're gonna have Sunday dinner, and I'm cooking for everybody to come over. I turned into that guy, to then having children. I love cooking for my daughter. So what are the things they want? And what I also find is, I think this goes back to the significance piece. Cooking is one of the most endearing gifts you can give to someone when inviting them to your home or even bringing them food. Outside of praying for somebody, like feeding somebody, B?
Absolutely.
There's a serious depth
Absolutely
to that. And so I don't take that lightly, because, and you know, when people say I put a lot of love into it, like it's real. Like it's a lot of time, it's a lot of love, it's a lot of thought. And so once again, that's how I'm pouring into people. So this is now taken on, and it's not a new thing for me. I've been doing this for years, but the passion continues to grow. Like during COVID, I could tell you I've added about 7 to 8 new dishes to the rotation. It's a problem.
Roster getting up there, huh?
And the jerk chicken, it was one of them. So again, yes, I don't know where this culinary thing is going to go, but if it goes, quote unquote, nowhere from here, and I continue to just do this as I'm doing, this brings me so much joy. I'm looking forward to when my daughters, 10, 15 years from now, you know, they're out in college and then they come home with their friends like, oh no, my dad, he got it, which I mean, or better yet, let him put something together for us. Like my grandchildren, like I'm thinking long-term, how rich this can be to continue to do this for my immediate and my external family and friends. So if nothing else, no, I don't have a thought on, I'm starting a food cart out here in Portland because, you know, that's the thing to do, get you a food cart and make some paper. Nah, I don't have, I want to continue to do what I'm doing now. If it takes me down that road, great. If not, I'm in such a great lane. I'm in my bag right now, and this is just going to get better as my family continues to grow.
No doubt.
Oh.
No doubt.
Family still. I'm stuck.
Always.
I know about Bobby Mack.
Yeah.
Talented young lady, by the way. I've checked
Thank
out. As she makes her climb, what have you emphasized to her regarding her brand? Because she is a brand.
Yeah, she is. That's a great question. The thing that I emphasized from day one is this is not about you. So we're not doing this because this is about you. And this being, we're not supporting your gift at the level in which we are because of you. We're actually supporting this gift because you're a child of God who's been given a gift.
Amen.
Who we've been able to fuel and resource, to refine, to develop. And it's your job to showcase that gift, to inspire others, and not necessarily inspire others to go sing or act, but more importantly, to inspire others to say, wait a minute, if this little child is getting up 7 years old and singing the national anthem for the Portland Trailblazers, how am I worrying about going out and pursuing this new opportunity, or learning to play the piano, or learning a new language, or being a better parent, whatever that thing is for anybody else? She is a component of triggering that level of inspiration and thought for somebody else to do something else. That's all it was about. And we have that conversation with her all the time, which I think helps to ground her, because we're not coming to her from a standpoint of saying, you're going to be the most successful singer, actress in the world. She may get there one day, and if so, great. We're saying what you are doing is inspiring so many people to do something.
Right.
That's the real win.
Right.
That's the real moment right there. That's the real gift. You're utilizing your gift to help people potentially see and utilize their own gifts.
Dope. What has she picked up on her own as a result of your influence, though?
I think she's picked up that this road is not for the weary.
Yeah.
Because she's gotten a lot more rejections than she has confirmation of gigs, right? But I told her, this is part of the life lesson. Like, you're going to get a lot of rejection.
Yes.
Is that going to stop you? Is that going to prevent you from continuing to go on? Or do you compartmentalize that and know that that probably wasn't meant for me? Obviously it wasn't. However, whatever's meant for me is going to be. But I have to continue to work on refining myself and my craft and continue to move forward. So if she doesn't sing or act in another production, that principle alone is a win from helping to shape and mold our child, right? In terms of character, perseverance. You're going to get a lot of rejection. That doesn't define you. It's just part of your journey, and you got to keep going. So she's had to learn, like, look, I can't stay down just because I'm sad that I didn't get this movie part. I'll go through that process of mourning. I'll cry. I'll lock myself in a room for an hour, whatever. But then when it's time, you got to get back up and get ready for this next audition. Get ready for this next gig, and keep pushing through.
Hell of a message. Appreciate that.
No worries.
Hey, Astor, this is my last one, man. It's been a pleasure with you to rock and roll tonight, man. You dropped a lot of gems on the Stoop today. But we're talking about acting, and your daughters are very talented, and we're talking about family, like Kev has said to you. In terms of we looking at musical artists, we've seen them transition into the space of acting on a better clip than athletes. Why do you think that is? For me, I think it's maybe because it may be a little bit more realistic, or maybe we just don't believe athletes because of whatever reason. But what do you see as the better transition for musical artists to delve into the world of acting?
Yeah, I think you're hitting on it. I mean, my initial thought there is entertainers are already entertainers.
Okay.
Right? And acting is part of entertaining. So as a musician, I think it might be an easier transition. But I don't think it comes down to the athlete or musician. I hate to do the peanut butter approach of saying all, right? I think it's just individuals. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has a knack for things, and everybody has a skill set. Some of them don't get touched or worked on, and others go deep on them. I think you found a lot of musicians who have transitioned into that space. Like you said, it's been a lot more frequent than that of athletes. But then I look at somebody like a Michael Strahan, who I'm like super proud of, as now that's not acting, but hosting is a whole nother beast, B. Yes. The way in which he has transitioned himself and evolved. I mean, I'm so proud of that dude. And I was a fan of his as a New York Giant fan, and I'm not gonna say that out loud too much because that just hurts even saying these days. No, dog, it's like such that's a whole nother thing. Sorry, I digress. But Michael Strahan, when you look at how he has, and I don't like saying reinvented, because that means that the old you had a problem, we had to reinvent. No, he evolved, and now he's in an amazing space. So it's individually based. So I don't think it's, musicians just have a leg up. I think if it's something that you want to do, something you have a gift and you have an ability to do, it happens, because there's instances on both ends where you could see it work. But yes, it has been a larger clip on the music side than it has been on the athlete side.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
All right, well, I got one last question for you.
Okay.
We pride ourselves on being a sports as well as culture driven show.
Okay.
Giving us a lot of gems. A lot of the stuff in Adidas and Nikes obviously is sports related, but now I have to ask you a direct sports question.
Let's do it.
Oh, okay.
All right. I heard 25 years ago you say that Isaiah Thomas was your favorite basketball player.
Wow.
Now,
yes,
that's an eternity ago in terms of sports.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talent to come and go since.
Yeah.
Has anybody encroached on that territory? Has anybody stepped over him, neck and neck with him?
Wow. Great point. Yes. I grew up, born and raised in New York, and Isaiah Thomas, Detroit Pistons were my favorite team as a child. So ironically enough, MJ was my boss some time ago. I couldn't stand him as a player. Could not, because of Isaiah Thomas. I mean, that was one of our speed bumps, so to say. So Isaiah, and also, and I'm obviously you guys are well versed in sport. I was obviously a point guard, and so looking at how he carried himself and how people would make the associate, like he always smiled. He always seemed to have a great upbeat personality. He was always putting people in the right position to be their best selves, and people always said, "Yo, you like Zeke?" And when I would watch his game, and I would, I don't know him as a person, so none of this is talking about his personal side, but just again, the image that he portrayed on court was definitely one that I have a deep affinity for. And no, nobody has trumped that, but I'm also in a different place. I'm not looking for a hero or somebody to look up to other than God. Like but when I was coming up as a youth and playing basketball, Isaiah was by far it. Now, if you want to just talk about hoop talk, about who I think is, talented out there doing, we can have that conversation. But no, there's not going to be somebody that kind of trumps that at this point, because I'm no longer in that space, and that is what it is. That's not going to change.
So nobody's going to be. He's going to be your favorite forever.
Well, yeah, and now I have because now. So yes, but now my appreciation for like MJ, after, and having worked with him and seeing what he represents, like dog, I have the utmost respect for MJ, and especially seeing that series that just aired on ESPN during COVID.
The Last Dance.
Last Dance. It brought back so many memories, and it just really confirmed a number of things and just behaviors and the way he carried himself in certain elements of things. His level of competitiveness and greatness, like how he demanded greatness in every meeting, in every like his attention to detail, like it just validated everything. And it was this one saying that he had in that stuck with me and will stick with me, because it's real talk. And I think if we look at this and everything that we do, it makes a lot of sense. He was like, you know what, man, people talk about how tough I was to play for and play with, but I never asked anybody to do anything that I didn't do myself. Dog, when he said that, like, I got chills
Yeah,
because
he got emotional himself. He said, "Cut."
dog, I never asked anybody to do
Yeah.
anything that I haven't done myself. Meaning, I've put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just hoping and looking for everyone to put in the work around me so that we can be great. And that's how he approaches everything. So my level of respect, even before The Last Dance, was high. But that saying right there, I understood how and why he handled himself in certain instances in meetings and in this conversation and that. It was like, no, he's not asking anybody to do anything that he can't or didn't do himself. And so I now incorporate that with my children. Like, look, I'm not telling you or asking you to do anything that I haven't done myself.
Wow.
To be honest, I'm trying to ask you to do it earlier so that you can impart on learning way more earlier than I did. And you can get to mistakes that I haven't even gotten to at an earlier age and be exposed to way more.
Absolutely.
I appreciate another gem right there.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Astor, thank you so much, man. We've had a great time with you, man. We just about hit an hour, and I mean, we probably could do a whole nother episode, part 2, 3, and 4 with you, man. But
More
we
than
definitely been a blessing to come on the show with us today, man. Thank you for all your gems, man. You now are officially a part of the Stoop, and you can pull up any other time you want, man.
Thank you very much, guys, and continue to do this great work. It's been a pleasure getting to know you guys, and I look forward to doing this some more. Any way I can help, I'm here.
Absolutely. All right, for my guy, Kev P, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another great episode of The Stoop. Until next time, y'all take care.
Some say that it gets no realer on the field or the court. We capture the thrillers. Some opinions and all of the truth. Real people talking real sports on The Stoop.